All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to sharing my desktop screen and click it to make it bigger so we can talk about it. And then I'll show you a little bit about the course.
Great.
There we go. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Great. So, okay, this course is very comprehensive, and generally when I teach it online, it takes 8 weeks and it's 2 hours one time per week. The advantage of doing it like that is that you have time to kind of absorb the information and to implement it during the week to test it out and see how it works. And then by the following week, we do just kind of a quick breakdown at the beginning of how it worked, any questions, and then we continue on with the next chunk of information. So as you can see, it's pretty comprehensive. The first section of alone is the 2 hours, which is just getting into understanding. It's first, it gives you a little breakdown of what the course is going to cover and it kind of an introduction. And then it goes pretty in depth into understanding Parkinson's. And that includes like from the initial diagnosis and prodromal, which is actually people who are finally diagnosed. They generally have already had Parkinson's disease as it's progressing for the prior 10, sometimes up to 20 years. So
Wow.
I go kind of into that because that's really important for people who have family members or maybe just people who are like, for example, if you're an instructor and you're working with a client in the studio, and this has actually happened to me in the studio, and I am working with this young woman and I notice certain things. And then she tells me that her grandfather passed away from Parkinson's, and I already see 2 of the 4 prodromal symptoms in her, then I can start to encourage her to go in a certain direction with her efforts and her exercise so she can stave it off or avert it altogether. So this
Yeah.
becomes really important when you're, working with different people who have Parkinson's in their history, their familial history. Diagnosis, physiology of the disease, including a lot of neuroscience. So what I could do is I'll take you through, I'll pull up the course. This is the manual that you would get. And I'll just go through some of it. So there's like a little welcome thing, about the course, the goals, the scope of practice. This is what we're looking at on the screen now. So then we get into diagnosis. So I'm going to skip the first like 5 slides, and then I'm going to start going into some of the prevalence, the diagnosis, how it's broken up, risk factors, a deep dive into the motor and the non-motor symptoms. And then we start talking about, things, simple things like water, speech and swallowing. We go into a whole neurosection thing where we start on the basic neuroscience, going from the basal ganglia through the substantia nigra, the dopamine, which is the primary neurotransmitter. Then we look at volumetric versus local release because that makes a difference too in how people, behave with their dopamine. And then we also talk about other neurotransmitters that are out of whack because when you have Parkinson's disease, it's not just the dopamine that goes out of its normal levels. Everything else tries to compensate. Like the body is such a miraculous healing organism that it just tries to do what it can with what it's got to work with, but that sends other areas out of whack as well. Then we talk about stages and rating scales. And this is really important because essentially later what we do is we match the Hoehn Yahr stages to my stages of our approach. We talk about treatment protocols, basic medications. The reason we have to know about medications is because the medications have side effects. And those side effects will determine if you're working with someone and then they just faint in front of you or they vomit in front of you, or there's so many things that can happen. So we want to be as instructors of this very niche area, we want to be as knowledgeable as possible because it'll help us to quickly pivot and help the client as best as we can. We go
Yeah.
through brain stimulation, what it is, how it works, and all this stuff is backed up with a lot of like content here on the bottom. These are the notes that I communicate to you. This is what you have. Um, our role in a Parkinson's care team, the whole prodromal Parkinson's thing, and then we get to the assessment. So at the end of every segment, section is an assessment. Since you're doing it live online with me, you won't have to do the assessment because yours is a final project at the end. However, if you
Okay.
want to do the assessments, they're designed to highlight the most key factors that you would want to remember in this section.
Sure.
And then if you submit them to me, whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't make a difference. It's just to make you think. I can also add, comments. I have a lot of people who submit them. They want feedback, more feedback. And then so we go back to, let me call, hold on a sec. I'll go back to here. So moving back to the format section, the next one is the absolute must do. So this is the foundation piece of my work that I use for all my Parkinson's clients. And this essentially acts as like a back pocket set of tools that you can use on every single person who has PD in any stage. So obviously there's going to be modifications and such, but at least you have a comprehensive set of tools that you know are going to work. And these tools can be applied to different populations as well, such as seniors, such as people with restricted movement or who are trying to restore movement after serious illness or surgery or whatnot. So in this, this is called the 11 Absolute. And so when we go into this one, we talk a lot about preserving movement, and then we start to go into what the sets are. And again, I show you not just the movement, but it goes really deep into the neuroscience behind it, what's used, what it affects, why it affects it, why it's important. The hundred is in here, but there's so many different ways to do it, and you got to know how to adjust it and why you would use it. So these exercises are designed not only to affect a person who has Parkinson's in a beneficial way, but they're also designed for you to be able to quickly spot what's going on with your client and how you can, which mini sets you can apply immediately, because you're not going to get through all 11 with one client in one session. You're going to pick and choose what's the most relevant for that client right at that moment where they are in their disease condition. And then we go into my method. So this is takes you now deeper into how do we determine what you're going to do with this client. So this is like explains what my method is, how can the method help, how it was developed, what our baseline is, what the format. So I use a particular format called SPACE. It's an acronym, and then you'll start to learn how to apply that acronym to every single movement or exercise you're doing with your client. And then this is really important. Remember, I said that the Hoehn-Yahr scale is how they determine Parkinson's condition stages.
Yes.
So in the P4P method, we have stages that equivocate to the Hoehn-Yahr scale. So we have a specific starting point. So if you get a client who's in stage 1 Hoehn-Yahr, you're now in our P4P stage 1, which is called the big push. And then it starts to talk about neuro-linguistic programming, which is NLP. And we use this because we have to communicate with our clients in a very particular way because they've lost the ability to show expression in many times on their faces. They're also very anxious. They're also very, nervous. Their temperature is dysregulated. There's so many different things going on in their brain. But the primary thing is a lot of anxiety. So we have to find new ways to communicate with them. And so I go through NLP, how we use it. what techniques do we use specifically from NLP, because there's so many different ones. We talk about prediction error signaling, which has to do with the dopamine and what the dopamine actually does in the brain. It's not just it makes you feel good, it makes you feel motivated. There's kind of like a Pavlovian method behind what dopamine does, which really is coming from a primitive process of how we stay alive, survive, feed ourselves, procreate. You know, that's all based on the prediction error signaling. Communication, how do we cue the exercises, cueing tips, red flags, and then the assessment. Okay. And then we go into Pilates. Like, why is this called Pilates for Parkinson's? Why would we use Pilates for a neurodegenerative condition? Little bit of the method, a brief history, the focus, why we're going to use it. And then there's a brief time where we'll go through the classical mat section, and I'll discuss, I have it broken down into purpose, root, modification, and PD stage. Some of them we just don't use at all. It's not necessary because there's so many other things that would work even better.
Yeah.
We talk about the principles, because the principles actually guide every movement in my method. And how do we correlate those principles with what's going on in Parkinson's? And then we take a look at how to do those 11 absolute on apparatus. So we'll be in the studio a little bit, either the studio at Club Pilates, or, if you have equipment at home. And then there's the section assessment. 5 is exercise fundamentals. Now, it is called Pilates for Parkinson's, but we don't use only Pilates. Everything is guided by the principles of Pilates, which is why it's called Pilates for Parkinson's. But in actuality, we use multiple training modalities. So we talk about the importance of exercise, the effects. This is research that I did on other training modalities, where I explain what works in what stage and what kinds of effects you can expect versus what you can't. We talk about motor learning approaches, which is implicit and explicit. This is really important because as a person's Parkinson's condition progresses, their motor learning capabilities diminish. So we have to still find a way to hack into the system, basically. And we talk about stuff like 7 primal movements. When are we using those? Progressions of movement patterns. This is all based on Gray Cook's work. When do we use that? Crawling. This is amazing. I have 3 of my clients who do crawling sequences now, and they are just doing so well. No back pain, improvement in mobility through the hips and the shoulders, and their weight bearing core work. It's fabulous. We use the Pakwa, which is a really old Chinese method of movements. And then we go into, which movements do we use, why. We use the TRX. I was a TRX master trainer for 8 years. And so I have a lot of background in this, and I use it for all my stages. But you have to know when is good, when is not, who can, what to do. And then we use core spring. So the core spring's been a really fabulous training apparatus, because here we're starting to get into more biotensegrity, proprioceptive resistance, joint distraction, helical extension spring tension versus elastic band, and when to use what, why, which stage, and then of course the assessment. You can see why this is like better if it's done over 8. This is like a ton of information. But I guarantee you, by the time you get out of this, you're going to go from here to way up here. Like, you're just going to see things differently. You're going to look at bodies, and you'll walk down the street and you'll go, oh, like spinal asymmetry, hip replacement, left knee this, right ankle that, too bad. Maybe I wish I could help them, or maybe you
right.
can help them. Then we go into a whole section on spinal asymmetry and scoliosis. This is extremely important because everybody who has Parkinson's disease will either have scoliosis or will develop
Mhm.
spinal asymmetry. So you must
Mhm.
have a background to some degree in understanding what this is. Wolff's Law and Davis's Law, Camptocormia, you'll see this. How do we do global posture assessment to identify asymmetry? What are we looking for? Postural assessment, the different views. Again, what are we looking for? Exercises specific. When we
Mhm.
have both a neurological condition and an orthopedic condition, where do we begin and why? You have to understand that. Fascia
Mhm.
and Parkinson's, understanding the fascia and how to work with a neurodegenerative condition and an orthopedic spinal deformity. So you can hack through the fascia and then the assessment. We go into a whole section on ambulation gait and freezing of gait. This is a fun thing, but then we get into all the hard science, which is ambulation and gait. There's how foot posture and foot. I haven't input these slides yet. I'm working on this section right now I'm redoing a lot of it. So, but anyhow, and then we get into the foot core system. This is really interesting because you
Mm.
have a neural subsystem, a passive system, and an active subsystem. And then, foot perception through the neurosensory receptors in the plantar fascia. Whole section on falls, freezing, common triggers, how to get around freezing of gait. Then we have ambulation aids and integrating music and metronomes in gait training. So I have a whole separate workshop on music and gait training, but I wanted to pull some of that from the little workshop because I feel it's relevant as a comprehensive teacher.
Yeah,
Just know it. And
that's
then
very
of
cool.
course the assessment goes through. And then we get into neuroscience. So now this part is just predominantly neurocognitive approaches in neuroscience. And so we talk about here, neuroprotective effects, what's happening, neuroplasticity, which I'm sure you're familiar about, the nervous
Mhm.
system, neural continuums, progressions in neural continuums, time frames for neural continuums. This is just the space format being implemented. Then we talk about the neuroscience applications. I use predominantly six. There's many others, but these are the ones that I use. And
Mhm.
when do we use them? What's happening when
Mm.
we use them? What are we trying? What kind of result are we trying to get the client to deliver? And then when to apply which one, considerations when applying, obstacles to learning, neurovisual exercises. So this is a new segment for new stuff that I have to load. So this is really interesting because your vestibular ocular system really determines how you are in space, your
Yeah.
proprioception, your balance, your stability between your vestibular ocular and the neurosensory receptors on the soles of your feet. That's basically how your brain knows what's going on in the world out there. I mean, remember, the brain's like locked up in a little dark
Yeah.
cavity. So the only way it has to know anything is through your eyes and your feet, which is really just it for me. I love that stuff. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
So we go into the cerebellum. This is yet another way that we hack into a disrupted dopaminergic system, like a system where the dopamine's not going where it's supposed to go.
Mhm.
Section 9 takes us into how do we use the method? Information gathering, session formats, assessments. So this is what I do with all my clients. Basically, I do it now in my brain, but before when
Mhm.
I first started, I wrote it out. I had to understand because you need a big picture before you start throwing exercises at the person, right? And that is
Yeah.
uncommon because generally a client will walk in and they'll just put them to work right away. Well, let's lie down. Let's go ahead and do some, maybe they'll do a postural assessment or something, but there's a lot more involved when you're working with people who have neurodegenerative conditions and in particular
Yeah.
Parkinson's disease, right? So then we get into so these are forms that after 25 years I've developed, and this is what I still use today. I just had two new clients this week do client consults, And I went with my form. I talk about these things. I do my assessment as I'm going through. I assess 3 areas. I leave them with 3 exercises. I mean, it's a whole, this has worked so well for me. And then of course, I don't want the person to be in the dark. So I give them all the policies, payment procedures, guidelines,
Yeah.
release of liability, media releases, claim intake forms, medications and preferences. This is a
Mm-hmm.
just general client screening form. You have a nutrition
Mm-hmm.
1 week log. Now, we are not nutritionists, but if you suspect a problem, which this is how I find out a lot of stuff, just write down what you're eating and drinking. If you poop, it's an X. If you pee, it's a Y. Just write it down. But what this does, it gives you a pattern. And when once you see it, you can be like, you have to go to a nutritionist because
Right.
you're eating all fast food for 90% of your meals. These are real life examples. So
Yeah.
you got to go to a nutritionist. So this is how we start to determine if we refer out because we can only tell people so much.
Right.
You got
Yeah.
to drink more water. You have to eat more vegetables. I mean, it's not really our job anyhow to give nutritional advice, but we can certainly help so that the client themselves can see what the pattern is, and
Yeah.
that's how we kind of help them on stay on track. Global posture assessments, just going through that assessment. And then putting it all together. Oh, that's all the business forms and pricing. Putting it all together, the formats. How do we work with the formats? Programming, exercise sessions. So what I did was when I very first started out, I made these stage formats. So this would be for stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4. Stage 5 is a completely different protocol. And on my new website, there's actually special workshops, which are only stage 1, only stage 2, only stage 3, etc. Best practices, evaluation, and then the final project. So essentially, the final project is that you will find yourself a Parkinson's client. Let me minimize this and I'll show you that. This is the different workshops I do. I'll show you this and then I'll go back to the final project. So the understanding Parkinson's and the importance of exercise, that's 2 hours. And that's basically all about Parkinson's and how does exercise affect it. Doesn't really get into what we do, a little bit of that, but not so much. It's more just kind of like a wake up call that, there is a lot that you can do and the effects are pretty intense with exercise. This is 2 hours. The 5 hour one is more in depth about Parkinson's disease and the 11 absolute. So that will take you through pretty much all of section 2. That was in the big course.
Mm-hmm.
Pakwa, this is the entire complete set of the 24 movements. In our 11 absolute, we use only one of these sets. It's called the Sky series. So that's in this intro, and it's also in this 200. Neuroscience application is only the neuroscience stuff. The 11 absolute on apparatus is only the apparatus stuff. The neurologic music therapy, the scoliosis and spinal asymmetry is only that stuff, but a little bit more on exercise application because in the big course, I can't teach tons of exercises, but what I can do is I can
Yeah.
put the instructors on the right path of what exercises are the most standard, basic, what can you do right that moment.
Right.
Ambulation and gait is a whole separate workshop. And then, as I was telling you, 101 through 105 are target specific to disease
Okay.
stage, only for those stages. And then there's some caregiver stuff here. Now, the big course is basically all of this and understanding how it all goes together. How do
Mm-hmm.
we use it? When do we use it? Why would we use it? It just really amplifies your understanding of what is this condition and how can I best work to help this client preserve their movement independence and stave off degeneration. And,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is a magic bullet, but I will say that there's a neurologist, an acupuncturist, and two PTs who refer their clients to me. And the neurologist has told me that the clients who see me seem to fare much better than the ones who just take, once a week, whatever other exercise there is,
Yeah.
or nothing, right?
Right.
But I have to say, like my clients, they work so hard. I mean, I have one client, he's going to be 86. He's had PD for many, many years, and he still climbs up and down his fifth floor, townhouse, the stairs 2 times a day. But let me tell you something, it's so lovely because he still gets to travel around and go places and do stuff.
Yeah.
And he's really proud. He no longer has back pain. When I met him,
Wow.
I'd say 80% of the people that you will meet all have back issues. So you
Hmm.
have to work hard to get them first out of back discomfort before you get them into doing the adherence and the consistent work of the exercises to
Yeah.
help them preserve their movement independence. But the beautiful thing is with time, if they're consistent and you're consistent with insisting on what they got to do, then it's really lovely when you do your check-ins and you say, "How's your back?" And they're like, "No back pain, doesn't bother."
Ugh.
When you know where it came from, where they were like they were oohing and owing and they didn't want to move and they were grimacing and so
Yeah.
that's a huge win for somebody
Oh, that's amazing.
out
Yeah.
of back pain. So
Yes.
yeah, that's what I have. That's what I do. Let me stop the share. Do you have, I know it's like this huge barrage of stuff that I just threw at you, but I wanted to give you kind of like a big picture of what
Hmm.
I do. And I have been doing it for 25 years, and I have worked in all stages, all the way to the end with several clients who've now passed through stage 5 and moved on. And it's hard, but it's such rewarding work that I just it incentivizes me to keep going because it's so impactful in seeing the change, not only in the person who has PD in their life, but everybody around them who loves them. Like it just affects everyone, and you become such an integral part of such an important journey for a person and their family, you know. So
Oh, it's
that's why
amazing.
it's hard for me to kind of leave, but at the same time, I've got my own parents who need me,
Yeah.
you know. And
Oh,
so
of
I'm going to
course.
start traveling at the end of June. My first trip will be end of June till the beginning of August. And so I was really looking at this time because usually I'll travel and I'll just give the clients stuff to do. But I know that it's so much better for them if they physically have someone there helping them,
Yes.
pushing them, watching them to see what's needed. Otherwise,
Hmm.
it's easy for them to just say, today's a low energy day. Well, I'll just do these little neck things, maybe they're not even doing them right. So the intensity is really important. There's all kinds of
Yeah.
studies on perceived intensity versus imposed intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll learn about that too. So that's what I got. I don't know if you're interested in that. It
No,
kind
yeah,
of
I'm really interested.
it's
I
really
mean,
fun to
that's,
learn. I mean, if you're into
yeah,
anatomy and physiology and stuff, some of the stuff is mind blowing. Like you'll end up changing your life, because
no,
you're like,
like,
oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that stuff is like what I just think about in my free time and sometimes just like look into. And I mean, scoliosis was one of the first things that my my boss in Indianapolis gave me a couple of teenagers because she was like, well, nobody else really wants to work with the teenagers. And I was like, scoliosis is fascinating, and just like kept doing more research on like how to help them like find more length and like release those tighter muscles, and like it was so cool.
That's so cool. And the irony is nobody wants to work with them, but that's the
Yeah.
opportunity for them to make a difference so they don't grow into elders or, older, mature adults
Yeah.
that have chronic back issues. Like those teenage
Yes.
years, preteen to teen, is when they can make a huge change. So,
Oh, they changed. I mean, they changed so dramatically
Yeah.
like so quickly that one of the girls after a year and a half like didn't have to sleep in her brace.
Oh,
And, you know,
beautiful. I love stuff like that. I mean,
like that's huge. And that means that she got better quality sleep while she's growing, which is amazing.
yeah, well, just better
Yeah.
quality of life in general, which is,
Yes.
that's fabulous. Yeah.
No, I would love to do the big course because I want to learn all that stuff. That
Oh,
is incredible.
let me share with you. Let me go back to my desktop and I'll share all the, the pricing and what I do. And,
Hmm.
I will work with you, on any of it. Most of the people who do my content, not most, but some, let me pull it up for you for a second. So this entire course actually is online. The thing is that I'm in the middle of a new website build where I'm separating this, which is Pilates for Parkinson's. This is the original website. The original goal
Hmm.
was to support people who have Parkinson's disease. This was built
Yeah.
in around 2018. But as I started to go along, I started educating more and more and more. So I had to start including all the education content. These are all past.
Hmm.
So now the website just has so much stuff on it, introductory workshop, comprehensive education. It's like a heavy mammoth of a website that you have to navigate to get to where you want. So I'm separating
Sure.
all the education and training for instructors and movement professionals. And then this is going to stay for all the people who have PD and to be more of a
Right.
person to help them. So going through this, let's see, let's go with the instructor certification. So this essentially tells you what's in the course. This is the agenda. It's much more extensive now, because this was originally done several years ago. So you saw what the course is going to be. It's going to be
Yeah.
8 weeks, 2 hours each, and then at the end, the last 4 hours are for the project, right? Because so let's talk about the project. So after the entire course, what happens is you will find a client who has Parkinson's disease. It can be someone you have worked with before or someone you've never worked with before. And if you need clients, that's easy. I can point you in the direction of clients. You might be able to even use one of my current clients. I have a really great relationship both with the Parkinson's Resources of Oregon, Oregon Parkinson's Warrior Foundation, and Parkinson's Foundation of Pacific Northwest. So if I need clients, I just can send a little email and send me some names and numbers, and they'll right away send me a batch. So you will get a client. You will take that client through an entire workout. So in the beginning, you'll come on and you'll say, "This is Mary Jane. She's has Parkinson's. She's had it for the last 5 years. I anticipate that she's in, or I think she's in stage 1.5 or whatever." And then you say, "What I'm seeing here." So you'll do kind of a synopsis of what you see and what you
Mm.
observe. And this will also be information based on your own intake. So it's better if you don't see them for the very first time when you're on the camera with me. Maybe you'll probably obviously meet up with them before. And then you'll take them through a whole workout. So while you're doing your workout, I'm going to be watching, I'm going to be filming. You wouldn't see me. You would see, let's see, well, you would see my video emblem. You're not even going to see my face. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
quiet, and then I basically take notes on the entire session. And then thank you very much. Goodbye. And then you and I have a second meetup where we go through
Hmm.
the whole thing and I explain different things that you did, maybe other considerations, things, how do you get around this situation, that problem. And I'll just scroll through the video with markers on, okay, you did this at this point.
Mm.
Think about maybe XYZ or whatever. So the feedback is super, super valuable because again, it
Yeah.
amplifies your perspective, So a lot of time, and then whoever is in the course with you, if you want, you can invite them to watch as well. Sometimes, when I do a course,
Yeah.
maybe, 6 people or so in it, and they're all invited if it's okay with the instructor to tune in and to watch, and to be in the feedback session as well. And that's how we do it in the live courses. In the live courses, we bring in multiple clients who have Parkinson's disease. But in the big
Hmm.
courses, there's sometimes like 22 people, so not every single person has a client. We split them
Yeah.
into groups, and then each person is assigned a specific thing, and they meet with their client for like 30 minutes, and then they present to the entire group. And then I do the breakdown right in front of everybody, including the client if they want to stay. So everybody kind of learns based on the feedback. Yeah, so that's what that is. There's no fail. It's not a pass fail thing. It's a let me see what you learned and how can I help you be even better, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see if I can go to, there we go. Okay, so I think we've got a course coming up in Mexico. I think that's in June. So right now, yeah, I don't even have the whole course, the course pricing up, but the course pricing for the whole 8 week is 14.95. And the way that a lot of people, a lot of instructors do it is they'll put down a deposit. And I'd say probably like 80% of them do payment plans, and they'll say, listen, and I'm very flexible with that. The only thing I ever ask is you keep your dates and your amounts. That's just, if you
Yeah.
tell me what you can do, I say yes, and then you just do it when you say you're going to do it. That's all I ask, because my
Yeah.
big focus is to get that instructor because there's so few around here. I'm working like a crazy woman running around everywhere because with only word of mouth. There's no advertising in this. The advertising is that, people are so happy and they're
Right.
able to move better and live better quality lives that they're just telling others, which is nice, which is a
Yeah.
wonderful thing. So yeah, that's what I got for you. Do you have some questions about that?
Um, I mean, no, I'm really excited to learn all of that. That that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
Like I'm in.
you'll enjoy it because it's really, I really enjoyed putting it together, and everything that's in this course is what I use on a daily basis. So I know it works. I know it.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah. All right. So
Yes.
then, if that's the case, what we'll have to do, I'm going to send this video to the other person who is interested as well. It would be really great if I could get at least 3 people to run a full 8 weeks. And then we'll take a look. So, generally, I do it on a Wednesday evening, but I'm totally flexible. It could be a Tuesday, it could be a Friday, where it can be morning,
Yeah.
it could be, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Generally, what I do when I get the group together is we do a little consensus of tell me your top
Hmm.
times, and then we kind of vote on it and get it done.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, if for whatever reason you have to miss a session, then everything's recorded. So you will get that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can always
Great.
do a question and answer with me.
Yeah. If I knew a Pilates teacher in Indianapolis who might be interested, would that be an option?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
When I run courses, I've had
Yeah.
people in one course, I had 5 different countries. I
Wow.
know. I was like, wow. Yeah. So that was fun. Everybody had these weird time zones. So that one was a tricky one. But
Yeah.
yeah, as like, because I think
Okay.
Minneapolis is what, 2 hours difference?
They're Eastern, which
Oh,
is
then it's,
I always think is weird because they're like in the middle, but it's
yeah.
Eastern time. But yeah, I have a friend who might be interested who's a Pilates instructor, so
Yeah. I
I'll
mean,
ask.
that
Yeah.
would be wonderful. Yeah. So talk
Yeah.
to them, see when you want to start. For me, the sooner the better because I'm leaving in June.
Yeah.
So it would be really lovely if I could just before that time comes, like if we can get this knocked out between April and May, then in June,
Yeah.
what I would do with you is I would take you into more of a mentorship program. And then you
Hmm.
would need to start, coming with me, and you'll see things
Yeah.
in a very different light once you're live there going into the homes and you don't know, what you're going to expect for the day, but you're going to see how to quickly figure out what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be incredible. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, talk to your friend about it. You're more than welcome to share the big curriculum sheet that I sent you. I put it in the chat box.
Okay.
So, and then if your friend or friends have any questions at all, I'm happy to jump on a call with them. And
Okay.
yeah, and this is recorded anyhow. So if they want to have, to see the recording, that's fine too. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think I have any more questions. Just excited.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So we'll try and let's see, today is the 18th. Maybe we can
Yes.
round it up and confirm, a start date and everything by the end of this month. And then you
Yeah.
can figure out how you want to do the payments, or if you want to just pay it all or whatever you want, it's fine. Yeah, it can
Okay.
check, Zelle, Venmo, credit card, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, we'll work it out.
All right. Have a
Thank you so much.
bye bye.
Bye.